recording, and maybe I will ask you from very beginning. Is it okay?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would be better. Could you tell, please, about yourself? General information like how old are you, where are you from, where are you living now, and maybe something else. What do you want?
Yeah, we'll start with the easy answer, the easy questions and the answers. My name is Emanuela Nardella, and I go by Emma. I live in Canada, very, very large. It's our birthday today. So happy birthday, Canada. And I live specifically on the outskirts of Toronto, major urban area in Canada. And I said these were easy questions. What that was, I'm 72 years old. You asked me, okay. What's next? You wanted to? Yeah, I won't put words in your mouth.
Yeah. Okay.
What have I not answered?
Okay.
The basic introduction.
Thank you. So, could you tell about how did you become a Gestalt therapist, and how did you become a Gestalt therapist?
Okay. I took a very circuitous route. In other words, we're talking about here 40 to 50 years ago. Everything was quite different here, and I imagine in many parts of the world. And psychotherapy still at an early stage after psychoanalysis began. So I'm thinking about how to make it a summary of it, but here goes. I start off as a very young person at 18, going to a community college and getting a sort of certificate in social services. Okay, that's how I started. 2 years of that. And I wanted to be a therapist. I didn't want to be a social worker. Social workers, at least in this part of the world, focus on or how to navigate social programs and psychosocial programs for mental health and family health, and more about how to make use of services and how to fit into the world. In a nutshell, how to better fit into the social system, social field that we're in. And I knew from very early that I wasn't too interested in that. I was more interested in what can expand us as human beings. So the existential philosophy, the phenomenology, the experiential, the dialogic, these things I read, I learned about in a survey, first and second year university courses. And so humanistic and experiential therapy is what just fit up my alley. And Gestalt was a subset under the bigger umbrella of humanistic psychotherapy. So it was a very long journey. I took part in process groups. They called them at the time encounter groups, T group training. So in order to become a therapist, it was part of our program in university to have a process group. And I'm forever grateful of that. That was my first experiential awareness, I guess, of Gestalt therapy. Now, at the time,
so first you met Gestalt therapy in university. In what year?
Yeah, that was an undergraduate program. when I went to graduate school,
Sorry, what year was that
oh
when
no,
you
that's a hard question.
about maybe not
I
specific
was
year, but
about in the mid to late 70s
oh,
was the time. And my Gestalt training was like a subset of humanistic and experiential therapy.
mhm.
So uh, um, I didn't get the experience of Gestalt therapy as its own distinct therapy. That happened. That happened later when in my graduate program, um, focused on Gestalt therapy for some of my thesis work and some of my my practicum work I did with Gestalt therapists. So you see how it's very hard to. There was no standardized. There still is no standardized way to see Gestalt therapy. So, but even more so then.
Yeah.
Uh, my supervisor, okay, I'll tell you, my supervisor in uh, clinical supervision and my thesis supervisor, um, um, and she was my therapist in terms of using humanistic and Gestalt uh, um, methodology. But she wasn't known as Gestalt. She was the director of alternative education in British Columbia at the time. So who would get Gestalt out of that? But nevertheless, that was my training. That was not in the neon lights, not under the label distinction of Gestalt therapist, Gestalt clinical practice. So that's that. And it didn't really happen until around 2010 to 2015. I decided, well, this is crazy. Toronto has a Gestalt Institute of Toronto. I thought, why not? So I went in there and I took the continuing education programs, training, I don't know if they call it postgraduate training in Gestalt therapy. And was the other category, public workshops. So I took everything under those categories. Plus, I took a facilitator training course, group facilitator. And there again is the word Gestalt in front of it. So I did that training to work with groups. Does that allow me to use the term Gestalt therapist in my practice? I don't know. Probably not, because there's a 5-year training program at the GIT, and it's been around for a while. I'm not sure if it's been 40 about the years I've practiced that, and maybe even a little bit more that the GIT um, was in existence.
So
But
I'm sorry.
I didn't get to it until I was in my mid 60s.
I want to clarify something. So in 2010s or around that year, you went to Toronto Gestalt Institute.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Toronto Gestalt Institute, right?
The Gestalt Institute of Toronto.
Yeah,
So
thank
it's
you.
GIT. GIT.
Yeah, yeah. So and you learn the Gestalt approach, Gestalt therapy.
Well, what I did was find a language, a broader language, structures like, the 5 layers of personality, like the experience, the cycle of the learn cycle of experience. There's different names for it, but the different structures that helped me put more words and more fine-tuning, I guess, clarification in what I already knew.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So the practice of Gestalt therapy I have been doing for most of my practice. And I think probably the community was even a bigger component. That here were people, it was like I maybe would go to another country, let's say China. I don't know, I don't speak China. I haven't lived in a community of Chinese people. However, the difference is that this community was new to me, but not the style, not many of the techniques, not many of the how can I say, the ways of which a person can live a Gestalt life. That's more important to me anyway.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of that through experience, but I did not have the contact, community, the contact, and the dialogues with people who were Gestalt therapists until then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see.
Other than the few things that my teachers have come along with. So I guess the best way of saying is I had a touch of it all along, and I have lived experience that I can see Gestalt better and better now. Is That's what that was, and oh yeah, that's what that was, and then through Gestalt, it made the click and the support system. So.
Okay, thank you. And so you were a student of Gestalt Institute Toronto, yeah? And how long did you study this program? How long
I think it was somewhere between 3 or 4 years, somewhere in there. And I had some kind of workshop. I'm trying to think. Probably I did a lot of what the program, the clinical program, it's a 4-year program at the GIT. I did a lot of the courses in similar to that or from that. What I did not do is stay with the same group throughout the whole 4 years, which would have been valuable. But I had,
why you didn't stay with the same group?
because of different workshops and series of training, what do you call it? Workshop series, I'll call them, went under a title, a topic in Gestalt. But different people would attend. It wasn't, this program has all these courses and the group goes through the whole thing for themselves, not for
Is it specific of institute education or is it your story?
Well, I know this is the way their institute works. They have categories. There's the 4-year training program, which is the program that you can then apply when you graduate from that program for certification as a psychotherapist in Ontario. Now, I am a certified psychotherapist, but the Gestalt part did not get me there. It was all the other stuff I did got me there. So, did I answer your question? Yeah, I did approximately the same similar amount of work and many similar topics, but not with the same group. And as I've said, and I did not have the the assessment and the supervision in that section. I've had assessments and supervision as a therapist from the other stuff that I attended. So it was a very tough decision, actually, for me. I thought of going through the whole 4 years. But I thought, in the end, I think I made a good choice, is to do it in terms what I would actually gain from it, rather than for a certification that I can put the word Gestalt in front of it. And I can, and I don't need that certification. So I just went with what I needed to learn that fit me for my stage in life, for my age.
So your graduation was quite different from usual students of Gestalt Institute. Yeah.
In Toronto, anyway. I'm not an expert in law. There's different all over. I got I've taken so many training programs, like psychodrama is one of them. I took a year of psychodrama. I took transformational psychology, energy psychology, like 6 months here, a year there. I took a bunch of stuff. But what got me the certification is my graduate program in educational psychology and counseling. So that allowed me to apply for certification, be a therapist.
Yeah. So do you have a formal diploma of Gestalt therapist from this Institute of Toronto?
I have a formal certificate, which is somewhere over there. It's called that I've graduated from a program in Gestalt group facilitation.
Okay. Thank you. So, very interesting.
It's
Next question. Very interesting. How do you think who is Gestalt therapist, and how would you define this role?
Who is a Gestalt therapist?
Yeah.
Well, Gestalt therapists who come from programs that distinctively put in their certification, Gestalt, you have graduated from a Gestalt training program. I guess that would count. But in my heart of hearts, a Gestalt therapist is someone who has lived experience as a Gestalt person. And in my experience, I had quite a few years of following, basically living by a Gestalt lived experience. And when I went to the Gestalt program at the GIT, it was, again, like a community coming back to me and saying, hey, this is what we're doing in our practice too. So there's some indicators. I don't know if you're familiar with, this is a few years ago, Doherty. She did research on the fidelity scale. So what is
I know
therapists do, right? And what's the research to back up that a therapist is using the conditions of therapy, of Gestalt therapy in their practice? And so I think that's what a Gestalt therapist is: someone who practices the qualities of Gestalt, and it can be shown or evidenced by the fidelity scale, how they fit into the fidelity scale. It shows that they really practice it. And the other one is even harder to ascertain, which is what is your lived experience as a human being in Gestalt. So and the lived experience again it's very much of the very much of the fidelity scale as a therapist. You just don't go around talking to people with that intention that you have to do this, and you have that agreement with people who come to you for therapy. So it's living by many of the aspects of a Gestalt.
Okay, and how do you think, how is Gestalt therapy training generally structured, and what are its advantages and limitations of Gestalt therapy training?
Okay, I think I'll start with the last first because I didn't quite hear your first. Anyway, the first part of what you asked for. Gestalt therapy, it's not a standardized program. We know that. And part of being a Gestalt therapist is it's an incredibly creative process. So there are very many versions of how a Gestalt therapist, what it can look like in terms of how he or she or they work. And I actually am a proponent of standardizing the training. I'm not. I think many of us who've gone through, especially have gone through university degrees to help us, clinical psychology or counseling programs or whatever, that we're used to standardization in some respects. So, and research in universities, I mean, we get more money at a university level to do research. So the word spreads, and without it, it's, I don't know how we survive, quite frankly. It's we can be as creative as we like. In fact, it's important as a Gestalt therapist to not only heal, but to use our talents to experience our authentic growing, and having a standardized program. I don't see how that would change it. We can do both. That's my thing. It's like an integration process. You have a way of that, let's say, university sets up for you. You have to learn experimental method, dialogic, phenomenological approach, use the conditions of, well, this is not specifically Gestalt, but I'd like to, if I was in a university participating in something like this, I would fill up Gestalt with some aspects that would support the theory, but not necessarily be the old version of it. And what I mean by that is one thing I think is very valuable is by utilizing the conditions that it's very vague language, but the human conditions of personal conditions of a therapist. I'll give you some examples. Disclosure rate, or the when to disclose with your client of yourself that will primarily be of their service. That is an example of the condition that comes from people like Aspie, Bernard Berenson, which I was trained by, but they were Rogerian in the style of emphasizing the personal qualities of the therapist. That's what makes for client-centered therapy. That was my exposure for a couple of years at Simon Fraser University graduate school. Anyway, that an example of how that blends well with Gestalt is by being in full contact as therapists. So not being contained by a role. The most polarized example is Freud, that said you had to be like a blank slate.
I
You
get
don't
it.
put yourself into it. And Gestalt will say, no, you do put yourself into it. And it's the relationship and the co-creation that work to recognize the person and help that person be more of who they are inside, what they are trying to be. So there's examples that Fritz Perls didn't emphasize conditions of the personal self as I know it as therapist, but it's right there. You put yourself into it as a therapist. You don't pretend you're a role. And there's the conditions of warmth, genuineness, self-disclosure, of course, empathy, the biggie, right? The big E. And I can't remember right now but those are like the person has to have their own, shit together, and our own therapy, our own lived experience to say, oh, okay, I know, to be able to say, I know when I get an aha moment, it's not just an insight, which is what I learned way back then, or an epiphany. It's a whole process. And we can look at Gestalt and say, here's the awareness, mobilization, action, assimilation, integration, and withdrawal, and whatever I've missed there. We can see that, and we can have it support us. And when we get the connections made in this, oh, it all makes sense. And that is answering in part answering the question what a Gestalt therapist is. To be able to do that oneself and be self-regulated, which one is more likely to be self-regulated when one is more well integrated as a self. I don't know.
Okay, we don't have much time actually, so if you don't mind, I will ask next questions. Thank you for previous question. How do you choose your particular institute, and what are the specific features of training of your institute? What makes it unique?
Yeah. Well, it's I'm smiling and thinking because to me the GIT, and this may be true in a number of organizations, is there is either one person or two people or that make it work, and they put their own unique style in it and have so many well-developed qualities and of what makes a Gestalt therapist and trainer. And Jay Tropiasky, who's a director, has been for a long time, still is, and she's also a shaman. So what I'm saying is when it's my best experience is it's the teachers that make it or not. And the GIT puts an incredible amount of work and substance behind their programs. They keep evolving. They keep building on them. They keep. Sorry, I'm switching gear a bit. There's also a relational focus. Not, we can describe it as the field, focusing or looking at the field, like Gianni does a lot of research on. And whether you use the language of field relationships, I mean, it's really about practicing Gestalt as a therapist, as a human, and relating to people, contacting people through integrity. This is a feature that I've been struggling with in looking at the international community of Gestalt therapists, because I've done some work in that and conferencing in the IAAGT, for example, business meetings. And so I see the real challenge in people expressing themselves as deeply and authentically in an authentic way, but struggling with the integrity of the other. Mm-hmm. It's like that's what I find is that I see a lot of struggle with that. Mm-hmm. I see a lot of struggle that people get dysregulated and can get nasty. And my experience of the GIT is they just do a really good job of showing you how to full contact and not beat each other up, that kind of thing.
And what difficulties do you I'm sorry. What difficulties do you face during your training in institute, and how do your institute support you with your difficulties and problems?
When there are clashes with people, and I've had 2-3 experiences with people that with students that I couldn't find the dialogic way to work with them. And so sometimes there's a limit. People have to participate in a dialogic and full contact. It's the meeting point, right? There isn't always a meeting point, no matter how hard one person may try. There isn't always going to be a meeting point. And I think someone like Jay and I, we would talk about it and work on it. And she always found a way to talk with me, let's say when I was upset, because I was totally real with her, and support that meeting point and support the relational. So she did such a good job at that I learned how to better do it myself. Mm-hmm. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think, yeah. Thank you.
It's just lots of skill, lots of maturity and integration in self. Mm-hmm. That goes into the best chance we have of meeting the mm-hmm. other, and especially in conflict.
Mm-hmm. So did you met some conflicts, or was you maybe involved in some conflicts, and which not just conflicts, which interrupts your studying Gestalt therapy or influence very in big way your studying, or maybe some ethical problems, whatever.
Yeah, I did. I got canceled on a project.
Can you share about this experience?
I did share, and it was really rough. I shared because I saw myself being canceled as an interviewee. As an interviewee. Did you want me to tell you the name or leave it out?
No, we don't know.
Okay.
Don't need names.
Anyway, Um, and uh, I have information that shows there was an ethics breach. There was a line at which what was happening was unethical. And I knew this. And the other person knew this. And I was canceled in my interview.
Because he knows that you know this
Yes,
information.
And I actually haven't shared it with anyone. It's my therapist and
so no one knows.
My partner was there, so he has, but no one. The exact ethics breach, no.
Can I ask why you don't share and didn't do anything with it? Because it's like breaking the rules or not ethical situation?
It's just an example of one of the things that I actually did share. I put a complaint in, and I won't tell you exactly because I did put a formal complaint in, and the person was not prepared to meet with me to discuss that, the complaint, to see if we could kind of, fix it. We could kind of create an understanding, and it was refused. So
Institute as like didn't do anything to help you with this problem, yeah? So
because they said you two would have to speak together on these issues, and I think they indicated, I can't remember, it was a long email a while ago, that they would help set this up or structure this. I don't know. If I was willing and the other person was willing to sit down and do it, but I was willing to do it. The other person wasn't. So that was that.
Yeah, I see.
So things still happen everywhere in the world as part of human behavior, right? And Gestalt doesn't have a European hold on it.
You just want to understand it better. Yeah, and so next question. Is there anything in the current program you would like to change or reconsider? Training program of Gestalt therapy.
So in my experience of GIT, or when
of your own experience of learning Gestalt. Maybe some important points you want to change.
Yeah, there is. I would like or have liked when I was I don't know what you'd call it. In a sense, it would be like a postgraduate program that the GIT would open up to Gestalt therapists, either through their program with a certification or I guess what you call, what I have is a part certification as a group facilitator. So I would be, and other people would have to be assessed because there is no standardized much of anything here. So have an extended program that might be 2 years, let's say, of people who are advancing their community base and their learnings. And there's a 1-year program for people who can come up from any field, like a doctor or a librarian, or who are interested in Gestalt therapy. And that's good. There's a year program of that, but it's not quite what I'm saying. What I'm saying is with practicing psychotherapists who have some exposure to Gestalt, whether through their undergrad training or like what I did, hodgepodge of different Gestalt things. And yeah, that would be good. There are a lot of people who kind of, I don't know what they do with their 4-year training. Some still practice, some don't, probably or may not practice in a Gestalt way. Basically have gone into the Gestalt program because it's a means to an end to get their certification as a psychotherapist. And if you don't have your certification as a psychotherapist, and there's 4 different avenues to get there. One of the big ones, which is pretty new, it's about 7 or 8 years old now, is the College of Psychotherapists, the CRPO. Anyways, the CRPO, that's the acronym, and it is the big one. And in order to practice psychotherapy, if you're not a clinical, say PhD, a clinical psychologist, or then it's specifically for psychotherapy. So it's really great that it took many years to form and change the legislation as well. So that's good. It's there. And the CRPO, so I'm saying that probably some people have gone through the Gestalt program as a way to get certified, but not necessarily that they're going to use Gestalt therapy when they practice. It's a means to an end for their work to get insured, and there's their title as psychotherapist to get validated and legitimized.
Okay. And how do you see the development of Gestalt therapy in the nearest future?
That's such a hard question.
I know.
I'm maybe it'll continue. I don't know if it'll get bigger, and I don't know if it will dissolve. I don't have, because the way of the world is going, it's hard to say. It's hard to say that Gestalt will survive. It may, in the ashes of, once whatever craziness, if we don't kill each other off and the planet, there are, of course, groups that are probably even more activated, and these are the outliers, right? The positive, hopeful, oriented human element to survive, and how that's going to fit with increased artificial intelligence and robots doing therapy. Yeah, okay. I don't know what it's. I just don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
either way.
You're a little bit confused about future Gestalt?
Yeah, I'm unsure. I'm unsure. At the young people that come into it, it depends what they make of it, right? What they do with what's been given to them, how they integrate it into a newer version, an updated version of Gestalt. I don't know. It's hard work to maintain the human element and rise through the ashes. So.
Okay. And is there anything else you think would be important to add and to know about Gestalt therapy training, what we don't speak about?
Well, I think the people who are involved in trying to make Gestalt strong and giving to the next generation, if they're teaching or working with youngsters as clients, that we continue to do what we individually, and hopefully it's always better in a community to get the support, to keep on doing the human thing. And I guess I would say not to worry too much about what it looks like if we, to succeed advancing Gestalt or just keeping it alive, is not to underestimate how our own experience in continuing and perpetuating Gestalt, not to underestimate our involvement. I guess I'm looking at something like ripple effects. What actually makes a difference? We don't necessarily see it right away or directly, but it's traveling somewhere to the world. We are interconnected. And so I think that's the best thing we can do. Like I said, I'm 72 and I'm still practicing and I'm being creative. I'm writing a poetry book and I do art, and Gestalt is all in there. The creative process is another word for me, 2 words for Gestalt, is to support your own creative process. And Gestalt is a great way to understand that and to move through that process. So the more we do of that for ourselves, and in whatever way we share it with others, little way, big way, I don't think that's the point. I think it's that we continue that, and that's what I feel good about.
Thank you. That's all questions. Thank you very much. And now I stop recording and